Welcome back, everybody, to the Amazon EU Masters here in spring 2022. I'm still initialized, I'm still joined by Troublelink, and we are into our final match of the day. FNTQ Team Kelso versus Team BDS Academy. Two teams are expected to go exceptionally far in this tournament. Hell, FNTQ, arguably one of the frontrunners for the whole damn thing.
Yeah, I think FNTQ, except from Traitors, are also tournament favorites. But that aside, of course, I'm bantering because they left the NLC.
How could you?
And they did damn well in the Superliga, you know. And now they have to play versus BDS, which is the final LFL team. But before we go to the final LFL team, here are some of the highlights from the last LFL team that we just watched, which is none other than Common Corp. They played versus the first seed from the Pride League, which was Gamer Legion, and I think they put down a clinic. The way they were playing, the back and forth, the way they were picking onto their opponents. I think it was, if you will, it felt like if you're going to play the skill check champions, KC came out ahead on this game for sure.
They really did, and remember, this is the team that are the defending champions of EU Masters. They won it in spring, they won it in summer, and when they turn up to this event, I don't know what happens, but they just turn into another beast entirely, and you could see just the raw damage coming out of the solo laners. Sounds like nothing Gamer Legion can do after the early game.
I really hope
advantages. Here we go.
I really hope we have this particular replay, because Caboshard and Seiken walk into an unfriendly base and absolutely 2v4 the ish out of Gamer Legion or whoever walked into their path.
Like, I came away from that like genuinely cringing at the amount of damage.
70k!
I know it's into a tank, I know it's into the Malphite, I know you're a poke champion, but even so, holy Caboshard, that's what you like to see out of your Jace winning.
Absolutely. Arguably, probably, maybe, perhaps the best top laner that we have in the ERLs right now. I think if you ask any other top laner in EU Masters, they'll probably tell you that they do want to lane against Caboshard. He's just one of the most aggressive top laners that we have, and he has been feared for quite a while, right? And now coming into EU Masters as one of the raid bosses and proving with his performance that he is that raid boss that everyone expected from him, I think it's the cherry on top.
He did so well, but we have now got to move back to the game we mentioned just before we hit those highlights, namely BDS Academy up against FNTQ. This group right now is pretty exciting to work with because everyone was one-on-one coming into the day. These are some very exciting situations, and we've got ourselves an lineup to work up who, according to Noah, this was the perfect Superliga team. They beat every record under the sun, the best score, the best win streak. They were supposed to be the absolute damn best coming into EU Masters this split.
And mind you, they've lost their two core members, which was the top lane and mid, the two solo laners, Pride and Dayo, which they made EU Masters finals with. They replaced with Baka and Oscarinin, and from that point on, they have been absolutely steamrolling the Superliga, having the best record that any team has ever had in their tournament with 16 wins. I think, which was absolutely crazy. But if we go on to the other side, you might be recognizing some names in this lineup as well. Crown should, of course, coming into mind as the first name down the bot lane together with Erdote. And then if we look on the other side, it is Siko, who has made a name for himself in the ERLs together with Aggressivo. Again, arguably one of the best top laners that we have into the ERLs. And Shio,
he's the person you know. Exactly. You used to play on SK Prime back when you were involved with that a little bit more.
Exactly. Back in winter 2021, Shio was introduced into the SK Prime lineup, and after that, he actually left a really, really good impression to a bunch of teams, and he ended up in one of the best teams I probably could have ended up in. I mean, he's playing with a bunch of really, really talented players, and especially if you put development and time into a player that shows a lot of promise, maybe you can even win EU Masters?
Maybe. They'll have to try their very best. Of course, this is not an easy place to be in, and this group was already very contested. Bifrost winning earlier makes things a bit trickier again. And of course, FNTQ, despite a very strong early game in both of their games, did throw it in the mid game a little bit versus Bifrost, but even more so against Esker, where they actually lost the game. And against a team like BDS Academy, who let's be real, incredibly good lane mechanical players that allow Sheo to be very aggressive. You do that and give kills to Crown Shot, suddenly those mid games, if you're making those mistakes, those overreaches, you can get punished again here.
Yeah, and honestly, I love how you mentioned Crown Shot specifically, because in the game versus Bifrost that BDS lost, it was Crown Shot with all the kills. And we're talking about this, and you were like, it was almost enough, just Crown Shot having the kills to turn the entire game around. So he's definitely somebody you don't want to be giving kills over. Saying that, though, Bean and Rux are arguably probably the best bot lane, the best duo that we have in the ERLs as well. Bean coming straight from Worlds performance as well.
Was hot dropped into that situation, of course, and did a remarkably good job there. Then comes into this Fnatic TQ lineup, moves over to Spain with the lineup, as they said, and pulls off the performances they did there. They are still one of the favorites. One upset loss doesn't change that, but we do want to see cleaner mid and late games. Their early games have been phenomenal. Don't take that wrong, but they need to be cleaner in the mid game, and they're still going to have those good early games against a team like BDS Academy. We're into this picks and bans though, and it's AD carry bans galore. Bean and Crown Shot will be allowed nothing.
I'm expecting then the Xayah to get completely taken out of the picture, because it is the next AD carry that's down the line if you go onto the whole thing. And Oscarin's Gangplank is one thing to be feared, especially when played for as well in the early game. There is the Xayah, the triple ban towards Crown Shot, and I'm wondering what Bean has in mind to play right here, because I'm looking down the list and I'm thinking Kai'Sa, Lucian, Ezreal. Rux does play the Nami as well, so we could potentially see a situation where they do bring out the Nami Lucian again.
Exactly, and it didn't quite work out, at least in the mid-game plus, right? You saw the incredible dives, but they gave up a little bit. You saw kind of early today a little bit when X7 were perhaps playing with their food a touch, and it burned Fnatic TQ in that mid-late game. There's the Nami ban, though, to try and counter that Lucian and some of the other potentially aggressive bot lane players. And I kind of like that, but what now do you want to go towards? The volley bear is still up, and you just pick it straight up for Maxi. I feel like that's become an increasingly first pickable champion right now in the Amazon EU Masters.
I mean, it's just one of these champions that just doesn't lose to anything or anyone in the early game, so you can be extremely safe no matter how silly you want to be and how aggressive. But of course, the reply to that will also be the Jarvan, someone who is also very active in the early game and doesn't necessarily want to 1v1 you, but he wants to put pressure on the map in general.
Please lock
so
Smear
onto that Jarvan as well. Possibly they might try to figure out to put down an ADC on the side here.
I'm seeing some fun ones.
Crown Shot.
Shame. Of course, the Misfortune, the last of those really meta picks right now, it feels like, for the bot lane. I suppose Ezreal could probably be up there as another one of those viable options. Still with the MF locked in. Still some options here in the build. You can go towards the lethality. You can go towards the Leandries build. Both have been played and viable. Time to see, of course, what Fnatic TQ have in response, though. I'm curious to see what they want to pick into the MF here.
I wouldn't be surprised to see the Ezreal possibly again get locked in here, unless you feel like you don't need to pick it right now. But the thing is, if you don't pick it right now, it's most likely going to get banned away. You still have the Lucian if you want to go towards that route, together with potentially a Lulu, but they want to lock in. They're going to blind. I mean, they're going to blind their solo laners anyway because they're blue side, but they want to make sure that they have really, really, really strong champions onto Oscarinin and Baka. And they're going to lock in the LeBlanc and Chase. Of course, the reply is going to be that Ahri. But now we're running into the situation where possibly the Ezreal is going to be banned away. And maybe the Lucian too.
We'll see what they need to go towards, because, of course, we did just see an LFL team demolish a game with that LeBlanc, Jace, Volibear trio up in the top side. Kami Core put on a clinic on how you can work with those picks.
Or the Ezreal Karma into the Misfortune.
Exactly. So now you have to see what the bans are. At the minute, BDSA are saying, well, we want to get rid of the Rakan from Rux, who's an excellent player of that champion. And I feel like the Ezreal probably should be the final ban from them, because with the Nami down, it makes using the Lucian a little bit trickier. I suppose you could go Lucian Lulu, but that might still be a little bit overeager, I feel.
Yeah, and I just think that the Ezreal right here fits the composition in general so freaking well, because you've got poke from Jace, you've got Paul going in from LeBlanc, and then you've got so much Paul coming in from the Ezreal as well. And so far, there is no sustain on the side of BDSA. So if all these poke lands, you don't necessarily have to kill anyone, but you force people off objectives, the Ezreal will stay up and available, and it could potentially also be the Karma Ezreal that we saw from Jeskla and Jackdrop previously.
I suppose maybe it's just saying, okay, we're not that afraid of the Ezreal. The Misfortune can poke you through the wave. You can't do that to us, so clearly I win. That's the idea, right? That's how it works. That's how champion interactions
Clearly I
are.
win.
Yeah, I win because you hit minions in the way, I don't. So what are you going to do?
All right, so here obviously we might see.
Is it another Malphite game?
I was about to say, I wonder if they're going to keep the support for last in case they want to counterpick and try to play towards the bot side, because Bean and Rux are a really hard lane to play against, and you definitely might want to have the counterpick right here. Obviously, Leona is in the cards, and Leona Misfortune is a very dangerous duo to play against, so you might want to take it away right here if you're Fnatic.
And you've already got such a massive wombo combo for BDSA. You throw down the Cataclysm, you throw in the Malphite ult, you throw down the Misfortune bullet time at the same time, and you can see how that all works out. The Ezreal was the answer. We kind of suspected it might be, but Beam will lock it in. Now got to decide what they pair that up with. Maybe the Leon themselves, you said.
It away. Yeah, I think at this point you have to steal it away because it is very, very, very freaking dangerous to let the Leona go through to the other side, especially when you've got Cataclysm, Leona ult, and Misfortune ult on top of that. You've got Malphite as well. There's going to be too much CC to deal with. And you
Turns out you know how drafting works. May have been a former coach or something. Who would have known your ability to redraft is a thing, you know? It's nice to praise your color caster when they know what they're doing, eh? Got to work out what the final pick is there. Can you guess it? That'll be the real cherry on top of this draft cake.
So you're looking for a support right here into the Leona.
Okay.
I was about to say maybe Thresh looks pretty good right here because everyone wants to like dive forward. And I'm like, meow, I guess.
Anime Cat on a Book versus Harbinger of Doom, Death, and possibly Dickensian Terror. Slightly different vibes. Either way, that will be the Yuumi locked in. It was something Yuumi used to be played with a little bit more when she was first kind of truly meta. You've got some good Yuumi carriers with a Jarvan and Ahri and a Misfortune, but I feel like, I suppose it's not a double range bot lane at least, so you're not going to get shoved in quite as hard, but I still feel Ezreal, I was going to call it Lulu, that's Leona, another L champion, should still be kind of at least able to play pretty aggressively there.
What you do have is like a lot of chase potential. You put the Yuumi onto the Jarvan, you dive in, somebody gets locked down for so long, you put her on the Ahri, then you can chase for as long as possible, especially when you get these resets as well. But like having sleeper champions like the Volibear, like the LeBlanc, like the Ezreal, it's just so hard to pin them down, where I'm like, I wish I could have seen a champion with maybe a little bit more CC to the point where if one lands, somebody dies into the Misfortune ult, because at this point I'm thinking Yuumi, and every time I think of Yuumi, I'm like, I need somebody who can hyper carry with that Yuumi on them. I'm thinking the Ezreals, the Trundles, the Zinzao, somebody that needs that sustain. And I don't think on that BDS lineup anyone has a champion like this. I hope they prove me wrong.
I see your point, and I completely agree. I do at least see with the final chapter that Yuumi does bring, and the chase potential you called out, that you can actually potentially punish somebody like Baka on this LeBlanc, who, yes, you burnt the clone, but you're going to get hit by an Everfrost and a Charm, and then when you dash away, you're still going to be in the last chapter and get rooted anyway. So you have got that chase potential to catch those slippery champions, as you said. Though if they do fall behind, you're right, you're not necessarily empowering a true hyper carry here. There's no... There's no Jinx, there's no Diana or something. You would love to have that on that.
Absolutely. And right here, Baka, okay, he was actually spotted at this point right there, but they were trying to figure out where Shio starts from. Shio is also going to have the Thirst Strike right here, which has become very, very popular among players that do play this Jarvan. He hasn't necessarily cashed in yet. He hasn't found anyone to pop his flag on, and it's going to be a pretty easy situation right here for both teams. They're gonna make sure that they guard the entrances and exits of the jungle, and both junglers are most likely going to be starting from both sides.
How's the crackling on my end?
Both sides, rather.
Okay. I am going to be talking. I'm here. Okay. Hopefully, slight audio issue on my end, I think, has been resolved. Thank you, production.
I do hear you.
Oh, wonderful. That's good to know. Hi, Trouble. Lovely to hear you.
Hello.
Thank you, production, resolving a slight audio issue on my end. Quick resolution there. They are very good at their jobs, it turns out. And that does leave us... So, quick tip to those out there, always praise your production, because they will mess you up otherwise. They can do horrible things to you. Like, I have
so
had...
you're not praising them because they're doing their job well? You're praising them so they don't screw you up?
I am praising them partly out of fear and partly because they're doing a good job. It's a healthy balance.
All right, so here we might see a very quick level 3 coming in from Shio and maybe sprinting it up towards the top side of the map where Oscarinin is playing that Jace. Maybe try to shut him down as early as possible. But if you look on the other side, Maxi is pathing towards the same side of the map, trying to cover for Oscarinin. There is a huge wave, a building up. It could be the dive, but also because both junglers pathing towards the top side of the map, I think it's mostly going to be a cover from both.
See how it plays out, though. See whether that cover does lead to the dive. Of course, the Jace has the shove in, but at least with the Jarvan there, it should hopefully dissuade a dive as Oscarinin does throw down that wall to try and spot out Sheo, who is on those Krogs. It's there nice and early, but will likely want to try and potentially reverse clear down towards bot. Just wants to be here to cover, as you said.
Yeah, and that is the third wave crash, but Maxi is going to choose to go towards the bot side of the map. They feel like they have enough vision on the tri-bush as well for the Jarvan, but Sheer will not stick around. They will not try to go for that Jace gank because it's going to get spotted. In the end, both junglers are going to move towards the mid lane.
Oh, there's the chains coming out, does miss. And what do you know? LeBlanc versus Ari and early attempts at ganks. I feel like we might have seen that once or twice.
There is a problem here.
Oh, yeah.
Maxi is towards the bot side river, and okay, he's already taking the Skull Crab, luckily for him, because bot lane had prior for BDSA, Ari had prior in the mid lane as well. Maxi was very, very quick right there to pull the trigger onto the Skull Crab, and now he will go towards his golems to finish the first full clear in his jungle.
It turns out that with the Yuumi and the Misfortune, they do still manage to get the shove. I suppose you still strictly got double range there, so the ability to attack the champions down there pretty well and do manage to secure lane pressure when it matters. Either way, though, Maxi did get in and take the Skull Crab regardless, and that's partly due to the path that Sheo took to shield his top laner and prevent any potential dies. It just comes at the cost of the Skull Crab.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm thinking here if Maxi wants to back after this and maybe head towards the top side of the map, because I'm pretty sure Oscarinin here will force Aggressivo back, and then Aggressivo will TP back onto his tower. So if they can somehow manage to shut this down once Jace has back, has both items, and they can bully the Malphite completely out of lane, this opens up the entire top side of the map for you.
Oh, yes, it does. See whether they can make it stick, though. That's the plan. See whether it survives action, of course. And left with a relatively even state right now. No true ganks or anything that have pulled off right now. Pretty happy with the Jace shove in top side for Oscarinin, and on the other side, the Misfortune with that early shove. They're going to get the gank in mid lane. That is the Predator pop. Sheo's around, though. Warded off. Not too much more. They're going to jump on the clone. Just get that empowered auto from the passive there from Jarvan, but a little more to write home about. And another little look in at the mid lane, but one that doesn't lead to much more than a passive pop.
Honestly, very well read by Shio right there to actually run straight down mid and stop Maxi, especially since Maxi went back. He bought his boots and he's got Predator as well. So it was a very speedy boy down mid. And of course, Sicko was not level 6 yet to be able to evade. Doesn't burn the flash either. So very well read right there from the BDSA jungler to dissuade any bad situation that could have happened to his mid laner.
Well played indeed. And quick question, actually, Trouble, because, well, we've got a little bit of time. Talked about the Predator on the volley bear. I wanted to know what your thoughts were on the likes of the first strike Jarvan. I am looking at Rux down here and thinking there might be a gank. So I'm wondering whether we've actually even got time to discuss that, because you guys going to get rooted. Flash for the Zenith blade, but it's interrupted. Ari Charm does what it's designed to do. Will force the flash, and the ignite not quite going to be enough through the final charge of the corrupting potion.
Oh, but they put so many resources in the mid lane. They use the Predator from Maxi.
Oh, flash! First blood from Baka. There's the question mark. He gets it anyway.
There we go. This is how the resources actually pay off, and Max is heading towards the top side of the map. But they pulled Max's Predator in the mid lane. Rux roams as well, blows flash and ignite. And I thought Sicko right there might just get out, but Baka has his number. And you know what? I'm just going to count this as a solo ball because there was no one else around initialize.
They did a great job. Chunked them out, thought they'd get away with it. They absolutely hadn't. And FNTQ's early game, a thing of beauty across their split, across EU Masters, but the turnaround here might be a bit strong, but look who's here. It's Maxi. Flash out for Aggressivo. Gonna go anyway. Sheo is here, though. Looking to get it right for the flag attack, but a flash away for Oscarinin means that Maxi can run down the Malphite. An empowered shock blast accelerates its way into the head of the mountain and blows it up. Another kill on the board for Fnatic Team Kesso.
and it's on both their solo laners, Oscarine and Baka. We've reiterated again how Fnatic love to play towards the top side of the map, and it is the top side of the map that gets all the resources. The flash ignite from Rux in the mid lane to get Baka ahead. Maxi making his way towards the top side of the map to get Oscarine ahead, gives him the kill. Oscarine 14 CS up. He's got the wave pushing for him as well. Goes back, gets the Vamp Scepter, will be able to sustain through the lane. Has his tier already stacking, and Baka bullying Zico in the mid lane as well, right after the solo kill. It's going pretty well for this Fnatic lineup so far.
Darkseer with 2 stacks, boots completed. Baka is feeling very pleased.
Oh no, don't you dare start
and
with
I'm
the
just looking,
Magi's.
there's a Darkseer on the other side, and I have been converted. I don't really have much of a choice because I live with the guy, but my brother, Americ, does love Magi's on Ari, and there's definitely one where that could happen this game. I mean, you got a Yuumi, you got him turned into a hyper carry somehow.
I digress on this one.
Are you sure?
I do.
Are you sure? We can talk about it for a while. We can just stick around on this one?
Let's not.
Okay. Well, I'll bring you back instead.
Talked about a lot.
I'll tell you what, I'll bring you back instead to talk about that first strike on Jarvan. We touched on before the madness in mid lane happened. What is your take on it? Because I know it was one that people had some mixed feelings on when Malrang first pulled it out.
So I think that for a champion like Jarvan, especially since you can flag, you can get so many easy cash-ins, especially in level 1. You can walk into the enemy jungle, put down the flag, cash in this 5 gold that it initially gives you. But then later on, when you get this massive ultimate where you get to cage 2, 3 people, and the extra percentage counts, not only on damage, but you also get the cash back, you get such huge influxes of gold onto your Jarvan, where he becomes such a great tank later on. I'm a big fan of First Strike on a lot of champions, such as the Graves that we've seen over, I think in the LCK.
Sure.
And also the Lee Sin a lot of times with First Strike. Now, of course, the numbers sometimes don't always show up, but it's a risk that the junglers are willing to take. What I'm a really big fan of, though, and not a lot of people are, is Predator on a Volibear.
I know, you've been talking about that since the beginning of the season.
Yep, that speedy boy running down your lane is just so hard to dodge, and you will have to either burn a summoner spell or an ultimate if you are Ari right here for Zico. So I'm a big fan of Predator. I love Speedy Boy, and right here you don't have any shields or speed ups for Maxi, so I think he does really need to be able to stick onto champions.
Incredibly so. That's great news for them, of course. And glad to have that discussion with you, of course, all the while we had that one. A couple of things did happen. We did see the trade of objectives. The Herald went down towards Fnatic TQ, while the Dragon went down to BDSA. So there has been a trade of those objectives, but not too much more has happened. So we timed it right, Trouble. Nothing mad happened while we had that discussion. I'm slightly surprised. That never happens when we do that.
And the thing is, the only problem for BDSA right here is that they knew that the Ezreal was going to come through. The Ezreal is an extremely anti-dive champion, but also you don't have the Leona to try and dive the Ezreal because Rux took it. I don't think Rux has seen Bean the entire game. Rux has been around mid lane the entire time, putting pressure onto Zico.
It's got a various diet, it kind of been all the time.
The top side of the map, putting pressure onto Aggressivo, and also roaming together with Maxi the entire time, which is what Fnatic TQ love to do. Whilst Bean can stay completely safe because he's playing against a Yuumi. You are not necessarily scared playing versus a Yuumi because they're just not gonna dive you. And Shio has been more of a shield rather than a proactive jungler in this early game. He's trying to shut down whatever Maxi wants to do rather than be proactive himself and create opportunities for his team.
Missed time on the make it range means crown shot. I'm still gonna back away. I know. Shio with Yuumi on top can look to get in here, but Fnatic TQ are already around. It's not just one person. It's a flashaway trying to get that final chapter. Still get the kill. Yumi's left alone. Baka gonna have to try and get out here, but here come the rest of the damage. Bean will go down in the turnaround, starting to come through Zico. Speeding up, can't quite get in range for more. Fnatic TQ punished for the over-invade into BDSA's blue side jungle.
What in the world happened there? There was a wild bean coming from enemy tower on 1 HP. I need to see this replay again. So as you can see, Maxi is already set up into Shio's jungle, but Shio has the Yuumi on him. And when they all bunch up onto this Jarvan, you see that the sustain and the root comes in from the Yuumi. Bean is tanking the tower!
Okay.
He comes through enemy tower and attacks his entire health bar. on that tower.
He got
And by
baked.
the time he joins, he's dead.
He got fried, baked. Any other description to do with food and beans, I suppose?
I don't know. You're good with this language called English. You find some
apparently.
words.
So somewhat people tell me that. I'm not sure whether it's actually true. Either way, FNTQ getting a little overeager. We have seen this happen a few times where they just overreach.
So remember how Ezreal doesn't get dived and doesn't die?
I remember.
Yeah, not when he's the one doing the diving on his own.
I see that. That does put a little fly in the ointment, unfortunately, Fnatic Team Castle. They do, however, still secure first turret. They get it all into Oscarinin, who is very happily the recipient of that. We saw that last game, remember, for Cabo shot on the Jace. Oscarinin is sticking around, and fortunately for him, Show actually blast cones the other way, who could have been in a bit of a difficult situation. Now, Rux, though, might find themselves in a bit of a precarious situation themselves. Big chunk on a ground chop. But, of course, he's got himself a Yuumi, so we'll be just fine.
Yeah, and the later on the game goes, the more this Yuumi is going to be healing about. So all the poke that we talked about from the side of Fnatic TQ is going to be slowly but surely getting shielded or healed up later on by the Yuumi. Of course, one person at a time, but then you will not necessarily be able to force too many people out of the fight. And we saw that once the Jarvan dives in, we mentioned with the last chapter from Yuumi locking in so many members down at the same time, the bullet time is going to do a lot of damage. So the way Fnatic needs to play the game right now is probably try to 1-3-1 the map, try to get picks with the LeBlanc together with the Volibear, and then from there on out, try to team fight possibly with numbers advantage.
You've heard the win conditions. They need to be followed through on, though, and it's a close enough game that can happen. It's still Fnatic TQ with a sizable advantage right now, largely off, of course, the first blood, that first turret going down, and that CS lead, honestly, in the top side as well, making a fairly hefty difference. But we've got a dragon coming up. That likely means we've got ourselves a skirmish, a team fight about to break out. Ooh. Never mind, I was going to give you a moment to speak. Never mind that. I'm going to see an engagement. The turnaround means Rux in a difficult position. Left out to dry. Not quite. He's not. Will finally fall. But now the turnaround's starting to come through. Shale getting out into the backside. Goes back and can't quite secure the kill. And BDSA just too slippery. They won't quite fall. Bean solo. Shiko, are you sure? That was bloody risky, but gets away with it. Chung mid-wall. Back at Chung down. That crown shot on the side does have the bullet time. Looking for an angle. The clone being used to scout. Very smart there from Baka, but all the while, BDSA not feeling comfortable to come into the river, even if they did get the kill.
Yeah, they don't want to walk through the choke point. They still have Cataclysm and bullet time, but you definitely do not want to chance it just for one dragon. You let this go away. The fight still went their way. They managed to grab Rux because he overextended right there. And again, you see that Fnatic are actually struggling to pull in the 5 versus 5 team fights, especially when they push themselves towards a choke point where Rux was. The rest of Fnatic could not follow because the bullet time went down right there. It would have been really grim news, and Fnatic TQ might have gotten themselves caught.
Oh, that's a big chunk of Oscarinin, but that's a bullet time after a shot class. Brings low the top lane, but the turnaround's going to be pretty huge. Yuumi healing them, his crowd shot. Could trade back by Sigan. Bean has got one though. Maxi, another, and this time they find the fight they were looking for. They find the Yuumi. The cat has been skinned, and it's Bean that picks up a double.
Very, very well played. Great turnaround for Fnatic TQ. They actually managed to make a pick. Oscarinin is the recipient of all the ultimates right there. And once all the ultimates are down, Fnatic pick them apart one by one. They're going to get to push in the top lane wave. They're going to get to cash in on the bot lane wave for Oscarinin. They're pushing mid. And they're also taking that Rift Herald to potentially use for a next dragon push. Now you see Rux right there. Again, his usual position above enemy lines. But they do find Oscarinin, very importantly, he has a shutdown. So Shio is gonna lock him in, and that bullet time is gonna melt him alive. But look at Shio, he's so low. Crown shot is very low because Bean is flanking as well. A beautiful flash from Bean right there to get away from all the damage as well. And then once the cat is out the backs, it's very squishy. There goes the Fox too, and it was a really good turnaround by Fnatic TQ to punish over-aggression from BDSA.
It looked like a fantastic catch, until you realize that bullet time was about a pixel short of hitting 2 more members, so it only really hit Oscarinin. And suddenly you realize the turnaround is there. Bean comes in and absolutely clutches the back end of the fight. Real credit to Fnatic TQ there, and that was literally after I was about to say, I'm getting a little nervous here, potentially. Fnatic TQ, mid-games, overreaching, all of those things that punished them a couple times against Esker in particular. Not going to happen right now. They get themselves back into a commanding position. They are up a healthy amount of gold. They've got themselves a second herald, and they are in firm command of this game as it stands.
And I am very surprised that with a Yuumi that's sitting on Shio, he chose to go for Chem Tank over Gold Drinker. I believe he would have been absolutely undying, but maybe?
Not enough time. They're going to get the root, though, and that means there is a disengage valve with Shiko trying to get on the back and can't quite secure it. Over the wall again, looking for just enough damage, can't quite get it. On the other side, Maxi and Shio trading out. Shiko left in a difficult position, has to flash back over the wall. The bullet time chunks out Maxi, but a Stormbringer will give him enough HP to survive, and somehow, some way, nobody falls, but it's a large trade of summoners and HP bars.
And you can see how both teams want to play from distance, and the only ones actually running in and butting heads is Shio onto the Javan and Maxi onto that Volibear. Everyone else wants to play from range. Everyone else wants to avoid any skill shots thrown their way, whether it's a chain or whether it's a taunt or whether it's an Ezreal Q. And of course, Crownshot onto that Misfortune wants to play from as much range as possible and just drop down the E and the bullet time to melt people when they group up together. It is such an extremely team fight for both of these teams to play. This is why they need to go for these picks. But then in the end, the only one who ends up in that Cataclysm is Maxi on the Volibear.
And he's got ways out, and honestly, it's a pretty difficult team comp to keep locked down. Ezreal, LeBlanc, Volibear, all very slippery. Aggressivo, though, might be in a spot of bother, has to ult away, has got himself, of course, Spellbook Ghost, and was managed to speed his way away from danger. Oscarinin secures another tower, and at this point, FNTQ, with all the outer towers down, can start pressing the map up further, start moving those vision lines, and suffocating BDSA out of their own jungle.
Yeah, and especially because Aggressivo does not have his ultimate up and available, you can actually now walk close to this Malphite. You can walk into Shio's jungle, put down your vision, as you mentioned as well, since you took that mid lane
flash,
tier
no
2.
cleanse. That's a misfortune. It's in danger. Maxi, Thundering charging away, but there's enough a chase to put Maxi rooted, but they don't have enough follow-up, and that Volibear at this point, so tanky, just doesn't take all that much damage, and that was your worry, right? The Yuumi makes sense in terms of your ability to catch with these champions, but can you actually follow up afterwards if you fall behind? And right now, unless that misfortune is layering the mother of all ultimates, it's feeling like potentially the answer is no.
Yeah, it looks a little bit rough because you're thinking again of Cataclysm Misfortune combo, and you're like, cool, who's she gonna get inside the Cataclysm? Because the two slippery champions, LeBlanc and Ezreal, should technically never get core, and that Volibear is very tanky, also has stopwatch, triple stopwatch on the side of Fnatic TQ that really want to fight for this dragon, so it's going to be extremely difficult to melt them with a bullet time. Meanwhile, Fnatic are playing tempo. They don't necessarily care for these neutral objectives. They're playing to take towers. They're taking mid lane tier 1 while they're taking bot lane tier 1. Then they're pushing mid lane, and remember, we said they don't necessarily have to kill their opponents, but so much poke landing onto Crownshot means that Misfortune is no longer there, means that the threat of being melted down by a bullet time goes down to 0, which means you're allowed to push. Remember, when Aggressivo was taken off his ultimate, it was also pretty easy for them to walk into a Malphite. So Fnatic don't necessarily have to fight them, they just have to poke them out or force their ultimates, and then they can just walk.
There's one of those ultimates trying to get away, but Maxi with the Stormbringer! Inclement weather at Category 5 brings down the mid laner and the bot laner. Crownshot and Chico turned into dust in but a moment, and with those two dead, Baron alive, I think Fnatic TQ might be just turning on the big purple worm.
Yeah, and that's it. You do not have any carries left alive. The only thing that you have left, if you're BDSA, is Shio. And putting your chance onto Shio to try and steal the dragon. But Baka is right there. The entire Fnatic TQ are ready to jump.
Second smite on Aggressivo. Watch for the Malphite trying to get in. Shio trying to find an angle as well. Down to 3,000 HP. There's ultimate available. You cannot stop the Malphite getting it. It's down to 2,000. You can make the steal happen. He's going to go in. Not secured. Still going to be Maxi who gets out. Now Aggressivo trying to flash away. Over the wall goes back and misses the ethereal chain's charm goes wide. Shiko gets a root onto Beam, but will not be able to find it anymore. And despite the flip, despite the smites getting into the pit, they can't make it happen. Beam will fall. That's a trade back, though.
And that was so worth it for Fnatic TQ. They get a huge fight in the top lane. Both the carries of BDSA fall, which means the Yuumi gets little to no value. And again, you see it right here. Ari tries to make a play onto Oscarinin. Beautiful stopwatch, and then Maxi just dives in to annihilate the two carries from BDS Academy. Fnatic then will run it straight into Baron, and then you see how Baka stays out to try and stop Shio. They have vision onto the Jarvan, and then the entirety of Fnatic lineup are waiting onto that wall to try and stop Shio from potentially flagging and dragging into the pit and stealing the Baron. Here there is still that tiny possibility because Shio does sneak around, but luckily they kill him before he's anywhere near, to try and steal
the spellbook smite did come out. Aggressivio did get to smite. He was about 100 HP off, not quite. Practice as a jungler, of course, on the Malphite, and hell, he made it close though, and I appreciate that.
Right?
Exactly, he tried. He did try, and of course, I believe that is I'm trying to look at the second item. There's nearly towards, I believe that will be a Fimbulwinter that's coming through. Took me a second to recognize the icon, not quite secured. So you're still a little ways off things like second items, even for BDSA right now. On the other side, you've got two on Ezreal and Jace, and they've got Last Whispers on top of that. So they are not just itemized, they are over-itemized right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Ezreal has spiked. Then you've got the dual, help me with the whatever
Muramana?
that is. Thank you very much.
Got you.
For MF, so she shreds through a lot of the MR that the members of BDS do not have, because there's only like one Mercs onto that Jarvan and nothing else on the rest of the map. It's only the Yuumi that's going to be healing up this damage. But the thing is, if you're already dead, there is nothing to heal. And this Fnatic lineup does so much damage in poke that the second somebody gets poked down, if they have to walk away, they're lucky. But then LeBlanc dives in and finishes you off. Now, of course, BDSA can only try to make a pick on somebody who is pushing on a side. And that would be either Baka or Oscarinin. I would probably try to catch Oscarinin if I was BDSA, because he is the most
Blown the
immobile
stopwatch at
out
least.
of two. But right now, Fnatic TQ have the perfect Baron push. 3 lanes pushing in at once. Crownshot trying to catch Baka, but Baka is so mobile again. It's so impossible to catch LeBlanc.
It's such a difficult state. You've got so many slippery champions who are so far ahead that even if you catch them briefly, you don't quite have the damage. If Death Cap comes through for Ari, maybe you can make it work with a bit of assistance, but it's a little ways off that. Still got to find the completion gold somewhere. Miss Fortune has at least got that second, and Flash and Chico will get a big more Fortune ult. Maybe that's what you need. Nearly get Rux to boot. Gotta get 2. This is the turnaround they were looking for. They get 3, and 1-3-1 is broken. Fnatic TQ, and Baron pushes into the base. It happens again.
Seiko does not need his Death Cap to do this to Fnatic TQ. That was a beautiful catch from the BDSA mid laner right there, catching Bean. The Yuumi ultimate comes through as well, and the bullet time melts through everyone's bodies. And again, Seiko, big props to this man, because he might have just kept BDSA Academy alive. That was absolutely disgusting.
They pulled it off when it mattered. We were saying, oh, it's so hard to make these catches. They need to make an absolute mother of all combos. They found it. That was exactly what they found. They may actually also secure themselves a soul point off the back of this as well. So they've got themselves a potential semi-win condition here. It's a bounty as well. Yes, Baka will get to shove in on this top side and probably put at least a bit more damage on it.
Right there.
I know Crownshot could think about stepping forward. He's feeling pretty happy to do that. Oscarinin will secure that inhibitor turret in mid lane though. They got punished trying to push for just 30 seconds or so earlier, but make no mistake, Fnatic TQ still up 8,000 gold, still very much in the advantage, but that is a bright spark, a moment of feel good for BDSA to say, yes, we can still fight back.
Now remember, that was Seiko making an exceptional play right there, and Fnatic TQ have all of their flashes up and available, and they will know that this could potentially be the case yet again. So hopefully for them, they will be playing much more cautious this time, entering the jungle.
Okay.
And being, of course, being in the front line.
We might have to see whether they can do it. Death Cap's complete for Ari. 3rd item is complete for Crownshot. The damage we were saying was lacking a little bit earlier is now largely online, so they've at least got some to make it work, even if those flashes are available. So BDSA will be praying, hoping for another one of those engages now with additional damage to back it up, even if those slippery champions are still damn slippery.
Look at Seeker. Seeker is looking the time for that charm.
That's a solar flare. Doesn't really get a full stun. It'll be Aggressivo's stunned, but it's a flash right back out from Rooks, who really didn't want to take that Zenith blade. Now the flash is on all up.
Absolutely not. You do not want to walk into that choke point if you're Fnatic. The Cataclysm, the Malphite ult, the bullet time is just gonna melt through the HP bars. If you're Fnatic, you do not want to fight in any tight spots on the map right now. You want to use the entirety of a lane to try and be slippery and slide about and sort of break apart the team fight and not bunch up together. But look at BDSA, they have a different idea. The Malphite ult is right there.
You can think about that ward. My days, very valuable crown shot. Secures another turret, the second of the game. All the while though, you're right, Oscarinin and Baka are up in that top side. Oscarinin was there just shadowing in case there was an engage that came through. They secure another inhibitor turret. They won't secure the inhibitor itself, but now FNTQ might be still here. Baka's in trouble, takes a lot of damage. Shock! Blast! Deletes Misfortune, who lives up to her name. An unfortunate state of affairs indeed. Jungler dead as well, with Baron alive. That was a play that FNTQ are happy to have made.
Oh, absolutely. And who does it come from again? It is the solo laners, Oscarinin and Baka, bundling up us two and taking complete care of BDSA. That was again beautiful to watch. It is the mid laners stepping up. Siko previously for BDSA, Baka and Oscarini right now for the side of FNTQ.
Every inhibitor turret is down. They've just picked up another Baron. I honestly thought FNTQ might have overstayed, but instead, Baka absolutely deletes the Misfortune. She is removed from the game files.
Yeah, and that is absolutely because they have all of the vision right now. Oscarina and Baka were pushing that top lane inhibitor tower because they had so much vision on that top quadrant of the map. They knew when anyone was coming their way. This is why Oscarina was also shadowing Baka, and they've been using their vision so well.
No inhibitors have fallen, but as we said, there are no inhibitor turrets. They're all open and vulnerable. There was an impressive engage in the mid lane that managed to punish FNTQ the last time they had the Baron. They'll need to find it again if they want to hold on. But
Shot wants this.
He's really thinking about it. He is so damn fast. And in fairness, he's got a Yuumi behind him to offer a little bit of support. But all the while, the shove happens in the other lane. BDSA have to back away.
And you want to know what? FNTQ don't even have to dive because there are no towers to dive.
Not at all.
But the problem is, again, you don't want to be in a very tight spot where you really push towards the wall. So you want to make sure you sort of split BDSA. You don't have the Malphite ult and the Misfortune ult and the Cataclysm falling in at the same time. Bean has to defensively E away as well. And they got Ari.
He's been rooted! Toes gets caught, but the tire around is massive! Oscarina chunked up! They can't quite secure the kills though! Enough shields mean this time it won't matter! Crown Shot has to run back towards the base. The cat is skinned again, and alone Misfortune stands. It's a bullet time against the world, and that time is short indeed. One inhibitor is taken, and FNTQ will look to shove on, break the LFL win streak on the day, and put themselves back in contention to be a frontrunner in the damn tournament. All the while, what? What?
Wait.
No, I was doing my ankle. I was doing my ankle. It was supposed to be over. Being a Maxi now in a 1v2. Do need to make this happen. 15 seconds remain. The tower is shown off. Crown Shot falls. And despite the botched fountain dive, it's still going to be FNTQ to come out with the win. Though I do admit, I got nervous there for just a second.
Unfortunately for the LFL, of course, it is not going to be a 3-0 day as BDSA fall to FNTQ. But honestly, that performance from Seeker trying to make the Hail Mary play on the Ari, and then Baka and Oscarinin stepping up massively. The solo lanes from FNTQ were absolutely insane.
Did such a fantastic job, and we've got an interview with Bean coming right up. I'm not quite sure whether he's available quite yet, so I'll just wait for production to continue. Otherwise, we'll keep chatting at this point. I'm looking forward to chatting with a traitor.
So glad
he might
it's
be.
Bean, actually.
I know he's a traitor, but we're glad to see him. He's here. Welcome, traitor, to the NLC. Well done on your win. Sorry, how could you leave us? That's my first question.
Yeah, it was not my choice. I'm sorry. I'm innocent in this.
We forgive you, but like you promised me a hover. What happened to that?
Yeah, that's true.
Oh. I forgot about it actually. I'm sorry. I was so
you
focused on the game.
did! Oh, you did! Oh, okay. I'll hold you accountable for the next game, Bean. But all in all, obviously, like all jokes aside, you guys absolutely smashed the Superliga. And you went through major changes as well, like changing both your solo laners is not small feat. How do you think your team is working right now with like Oscarine and Bakain, like putting this performance as well in EU Masters? How do you feel about the team?
I mean, I think it's working really well. What I like about our team is that we're super flexible. Like we can play carries in 3 lanes and 3 people can carry. It's not something all the teams have in EU Masters, for example, or in LVP. Like a lot of people struggle with this, and this is like a really big advantage, especially in drafts, that we can just be so flexible.
That's flexibility, a huge strength. Got to ask that quick question though. We have seen incredible early games for Fnatic Team Castle, but some of those mid-late games when you're trying to shove into him with the Baron kind of bit you the other day. It nearly bit you again a little bit today. What's going on there, man? What's happening in those Baron shoves?
Yeah, I don't know. Yesterday, no, 2 days ago, the game against Team SK Gaming was, I think we made a bit of uncharacteristic mistakes for us. We played a really bad mid game, and usually that's not a problem we have. But I think today we played a good mid game actually. I got caught on mid once, but besides that, I think our mid game was really clean. We got all the towers, and yeah, besides that one fumble in mid lane where I die, I think we played pretty good macro today.
Okay, I'm going to ask you this question, and there better be an NLC team included in the answer right there. Who do you think are your biggest rivals? Because obviously, I think you guys are coming into the EU Masters again as a favorite. You weren't last year, but you proved that you should have been by reaching finals. And obviously, you're coming into this year as being some of the absolute favorites. So who are you looking forward to face?
I think for me, it's honestly just the LFL teams. Like judging from having scrimped the whole split, I feel like the 4 LFL teams and us, there's quite the gap between us. I think it didn't really show in the first 3 days. Maybe it's just some nerves. Like we had some nerves as well. We lost the 1 game, but my feeling going into this tournament was that the 4 LFL teams are us, and us should be a step above the rest.
Okay. Nice to hear that one. Of course,
he didn't mention an NLC team, by the way.
He didn't mention X7.
And he didn't hover.
I know. Okay, we see how it is. But of course, great to hear those words. Interesting hearing that perspective as well. Congratulations again on the win. Wish you the best of luck with the rest of the Amazon EU Masters and your continued run. But that's all we have time for with Beans. We'll see you around. He's a traitor, but he's a lovely traitor.
He is a traitor and he didn't hover, so I will hold him accountable to that.
You can see the fury in Trouble's eyes. You don't want that. She's pretty nasty when she's angry. You know, like, so like that laugh tells you everything you need to know. It's pure evil, guys. I tell you. I live in fear all the time. That's not true. She's actually very lovely, excellent to work with. But of course, that leaves us with the end of the day here as it stands. We've ended up with some very interesting results. Let's go back over the highlights of this game, though, in particular, where this was a bit of an interesting dive when Bean tanked tower.
Yeah, I think that was a little bit of a whoopsie, but I don't know if Bean counts this as a mid-game, because he said that he only got caught once. But yeah, all in all, I felt like everyone stepped up from Fnatic TQ. BDSA was no small team to play against as well, and I felt like they played their hearts out, right? I don't think that the BDSA composition was very easy to execute, especially because Fnatic TQ was just so mobile, right? It would make sense if the team was very mobile, but then when it came down to playing these team fights, everyone was slippery and sliding away and getting out of the Cataclysm. And at the end of the day, Crownshot did not have a very easy way of putting down that bullet time and it sticking. It did once, and that was out of a huge play from Siko in the mid lane, but other than that, it kind of was pretty much non-existent right there. And that was a really good try right there from Receiver and Shio trying to steal that one.
But this was game over at this point. You can see they try to get into the back of this one. Down goes the jungler, down goes Crownshot. Suddenly you're in a very difficult position, and here you go. This is that kind of final shove. Shiko gets caught, and then suddenly it's lights out. The turnaround's there, but the other source of your damage is there, and Crownshot doesn't get in range to put the Misfortune ult down. There is no bullet time when all of that's happening.
Yeah, and when you have Baka on the side trying to flank you and kill you and diving into your fountain, is just very difficult to do so. Again, I felt like maybe that Yuumi pick was a little bit of a whoopsie. I don't think there was necessarily like a hyper carry in the team to try and put the Yuumi on for them to carry forward. So As you can see, Bean, 22.4k. We have Oscarinin in the top lane, 21.1k. And yes, these are poke champions, but man, did they absolutely dismantle BDSA.
You get enough damage behind poke and you layer enough poke up and it suddenly becomes burst, it turns out. It just happens from the other side of your screen. And you saw that a lot this game. Very well played from Fnatic, Team Casso. And outside of that, you know, that one play in mid, it really did feel like it was going their way pretty much the entire damn game. And it's good to see a little bit of the righting of the ship after we maybe had some concerns after that game versus SK.
But also, we have to look a little bit at what's going on in the groups and the standings as well, because I feel like specifically in this group, it's going to be fire. Because Group C, if you ask anyone, they'd be like, BDS Academy and Fnatic TQ, eyes closed, they're going to get out of the groups. Suddenly, Bifrost jumps in, the second seed from the NLC, 2-1. You're looking at all the other groups, 3-0 from the LFL, 3-0 from the LFL Group D as well, and another NLC team, 3-0 in Group B. So far to me, is looking again like the rivalry in 2021 summer finals.
It's happening.
NLC and the LFL are butting heads.
Of course, Fnatic TQ could be considered part of that as well. Definitely in that line. Of course, you can see for the
They're still in my heart.
Absolutely. Group A as well. Of course, Eintracht Spandau are going to be pretty upset with the fact that they couldn't quite make it work today as well. And that leaves a good Rogue looking pretty good here as well in Group A. Group D, of course, didn't play today, but LDLC, Unicorns of Love, looking pretty damn strong there as well. And leaves us with a very exciting situation for next week, where Group C is the closest. Everything else is a little bit more solved, at least for now. Still 3 more games to go, and of course that will mean we've still got some more to come. But alas, a few days off. The next day of games will be next Thursday, starting off with Bisons versus LDLC, then Atleta versus Unicorns, and a few of those games there looking pretty exciting as well. Anyone's particularly catching your eye, Trouble?
Yeah, I think this is going to be the conclusion of Group D.
Oh, yeah.
And especially when you have a team like Atleta that have showed that they can pull off upsets going 0-3. We have seen teams going 3-3 and still qualifying. Now, it's going to be really difficult because LDLC are already 3-0, so it's going to be a really rough task for them. But then we have 2 other teams that are trying to qualify, and if Atleta can actually play spoiler for them, we could see a huge upset in that group.
Absolutely. You got LFL first seed, this incredible run from the Unicorns of Love Sex Edition, who until their loss to LDLC were 10-0 over their EU Masters run. Bison's one of the Superliga teams. That is a stacked group in a lot of ways, at least in terms of the regions they are representing. But of course, that does mean that we are close to being done. I think it might be. Trouble, it's been a pleasure. Congratulations on your solo casting abilities. Thank you for rescuing me from those.
Nobody wants to hear my play-by-play ever again, Initialize. Don't leave me again.
Look, I gave you an opportunity. That's what I did. Alas, that does mean from myself, from Trouble, from the whole Amazon EU Masters production crew, we bid you good night, good morning, good evening, wherever you are around the globe, and we'll see you on Thursday. See you around.